Good day and welcome to a new video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe! Hello and welcome today. Today just joined by me, Daniel. And this is me painting page 1, as you can see. Page 1. Yes, page 1 of my book. Had to think there. Part 2 of it, because well, kind of part 3. Because I have painted it before, and then now I'm retouching it. I'm going back through my whole book and just doing touches up now. So you see a lot of that. So you won't see kind of a lot of content coming along, but me just editing and painting pieces. Hopefully, you know, in the next couple of months or so, we might see something new. Something different if we're lucky, but we'll see how we go. For now, I'm still just kind of painting and keeping up with this YouTube video thing, and then keeping on going. Yeah, so you know, yeah, you know, I have had some great artists in the few months, and you know, at the moment it's a bit slow, not having so many artists in. It's kind of just me at the moment. Making these videos, making weekly tips, and just keeping on going. Hopefully, you know, within the next couple of weeks or so, we might have another artist in, because I do, you know, I do enjoy making those. I do enjoy chatting with other artists and things like that. And yeah, get involved in that kind of way. And the art community is great to do. So I kind of miss that sometimes. But it gets like that sometimes. I have weeks and months that are quite slow, don't hear from many artists and things like that, and just trying to keep up with my videos. Sometimes me, you know, I get busy as well, so it's hard to kind of try and keep up with other artists and chat with them and everything. So yeah, it is what it is. But yeah, today we're gonna be um, covering an important topic, a very interesting topic. If you're interested in it, you know, if you're an artist, illustrator, creator, even a YouTube video, um, you know, creator, video maker, you'll be interested in this topic. And this is the topic of communication with your art. So, you know, there's communication in art everywhere. Art is a form of communication in a way. And you can see this anywhere really. Communicating with your videos, with your animations, um, your illustrations, you know, whatever you're trying to say. I've got kind of a couple points of view here because I create YouTube videos, therefore I communicate with my kind of YouTube videos. I've got my illustration artwork, so that, you know, I communicate with that, telling stories, communicating characters, you know, what a character is like, what a creature is like, communicating ideas and things like that. I've got a lot of that perspective to kind of shine my light on, because I know a few of these things. Yeah, so you know, feel free to sit back, relax, and just kind of paint along with me if you like. Check on your own music, you know, background music if you can. Um, yeah, you know, do what you like. Keep painting. Hopefully, you know, you are kind of painting, creating while I'm painting, creating. Which is nice to do. You know, it's nice to have some sort of background noises while you're painting sometimes. You know, feel free, you know, to go check on a Schoolism or something like that, or those free online learning lessons and things like that. It's always helpful to have these things going on. Sometimes, sometimes you want to be kind of alone in your space with just your thoughts and just painting along. Yeah. So you know, all art and design of any sort has communication in it. You know, it goes back years, way back to the cave painting days. Back then, you know, there was only kind of pictures of people, stick figures, the old stick figures from like Pack and Save ads. If you don't know that, you look up Pack and Save New Zealand. We have these stickman ads that come on. They remind me of like what cave paintings could be or were. Um, but these communicate and tell stories. Cave paintings, um, they capture things, animals, people, hunting, stories. They capture it all in these cave paintings, and that's kind of the first. Although, um, I don't know like where history, starts or ends. Not sure if that the cave paintings were before kind of Mesopotamian and Egypt and ancient Egypt. I don't know which one came first. I think it was cave paintings, but hey, I'm no expert in ancient history. Um, I do, I have kind of gone over it. Kind of history and art history because I kind of learned that in my course that I did. We went over a lot of that and we had to learn that. Um, but I don't know each category, and it's kind of that thing where you study it for a long time and you just kind of forget it. But it's in there somewhere, and every now and again, if there's a project or something I'm looking at doing, I'll look into that kind of thing. I'll be like, well, this has Aztec feeling, or this has um needs an Egyptian feeling or something. I'll look into like Egyptian um mummified Egyptian kind of things. Yeah, and kind of go from there and look into that, and hit a note in my brain and be like, oh, no, I know this, and start to click what I actually know, and use my knowledge. But yeah, in these days, the old cave paintings days, these tell stories. Um, they showed what they wanted to capture. The cave paintings are quite simple, like I said, stickmans. They use a lot of symbols or simple strokes usually, some sort of very kind of universal kind of understanding to everyone. Same with like you see this in Egyptians, they use symbols, um, and cats, dogs, a lot of kind of symbols and imagery that you would normally see around you and understand. Obviously, there's with say for Egyptian, it was like decoded and everything like that. Some of it, um, and it depends on how it's read and everything like that. But they use simple imagery and symbols. They were communicating something usually. Maybe just telling stories of how they hunted certain animals, or maybe what kind of animals in or hunting or the environment, what was going on in their lifestyle, and was their life for. Therefore, showing people what their life is, letting them know a little bit about themselves. And I think we do that in our art these days. We tell stories, we show a little bit about ourselves in some of these paintings. There might be emotions or feelings that we are feeling, and we paint those out, create stuff for it, create these wonderful paintings. Some, in history, you're looking at something like Starry Night. I think it's Van Gogh. I'm pretty sure it's Van Gogh. Don't quote me on this, but he had that kind of feeling. That was his view of his apartment, what he saw out of his window. That was what Starry Night was based on. So, these feelings, these emotions that we have, they all come into play when creating and communicating with your art. These cave paintings, they can be read nearly by anyone. Usually, cave paintings, these Egyptian wall paintings, usually they can be kind of read or interpreted by anyone really. Anyone can come and see them and interpret them and then find out what it means. Um, However, some will be able to read it in a way it was intended, and some might just see a cow or people. Some people will come and be able to decode it and make sense of what's actually happening in the scene and going on with the painting. What's the painting and the story trying to say. People might come in and, oh, there's a painting of a cow and there's a painting of a person and there's a painting, you know and they might be able to be like, oh, something to do with hunting cows. But then some people might be coming in and actually get the whole picture and understand that this was a painting and its intention. Oh, it's trying to tell a story of this man who went out to find a cattle, but he went to hunt it because he was hungry. The full story on what the actual painting. Now this, this could be right or wrong, but everyone's gonna interpret it differently, and some people are going to find the right interpretation of what the artist, the illustrator, the creator was intending. Um, Now, the goal here is to really try and get as many people as you can to interpret it in that way of what you're creating, your video, your illustration, your animation. You want as many people as you can to kind of interpret it the way it's meant to be interpreted. Um, Now, this is a kind of up and down thing because sometimes, you don't want them to interpret it too much, or, sometimes you hit it just in the right way, that people do interpret it straight away, what's happening in the scene. Um, or it might be like maybe too much of a high level of intelligence per se to understand the full context, like per se a joke. Sometimes with a joke, um, some people get it and some people don't. And I think art can be like that, or illustration or videos and YouTube videos can be like that, where some people get the joke and some people don't get the joke. However, if you're the only one that understands it or finds it funny in any way, it's usually known as a bad joke. So it can be the same in art and illustration, and YouTube video creative industries. It's if you're the only one that kind of interprets it, makes sense of it all, and no one else is getting it or understanding it at all, then it is not hitting any marks or getting anywhere. Say for the cave paintings, if no one understood it was a cow, no one understood it was a person, they thought it was just like blank marks everywhere. It wouldn't be good at all. It wouldn't have told a good story. And it just wouldn't be good paintings. And those paintings won't be as popular as they are these days. Um, you know, Lots of people may have different interpretations, as I said, but it is a strong communication and quite a popular theme used in documentaries. These cave paintings are used in a lot of documentaries and films and animations and more. Videos, design, blah blah blah. All those things use these cave paintings sometimes. Going back, say, Ice Age, with that, there's cave paintings in there somewhere. and that kind of whole, symbols and everything that they use as well. It's all there in that whole thing, which is quite popular. It's been, you know, um, quite popular to use. I've seen it in lots of things, documentaries, movies. It's used a lot. That's why it's so popular, because it's strong in communication, um, and it makes sense. It's quite good art. I mean, physically, it's not too great. It's not a Mona Lisa, or it's not the greatest paintings in the world, like really um, well painted and everything like that. Physically well painted, I'd say, or digitally, whatever. Like um, technically painted. That's the word. It's not exactly the most technically painted best piece in the world, but it is, really kind of good art because it's strong in communication. Um, and it's what they had back then as well. They didn't have a lot of these pigments we do now, a lot of painting techniques, a lot of people sharing art knowledge and skills. I mean, back then, actually, even back, probably not back then, but even back then, there wasn't really many people kind of teaching you. As far as I can think, it's just kind of your tribes like teaching you how to cave paint and create these markings, and then going back probably a few hundred years ago or something, people kind of sharing their art knowledges by mentoring other artists and things like that. Have kind of gone through the ages of it teaching, but these days it just every kind of century, or every kind of couple of hundred years or so, whatever, um, we just and nowadays it's boosting more and more. We're sharing our art knowledge, widely spread these days online for free. You don't have to find your most favorite artists to go and see if they mentor you anymore. You can still do that, but these days you can find so many options. It's out there. It's click of a button. You can learn something about art. You don't have to go to the library much anymore. You can if you want as well. I mean, those are very helpful. It's great to have like a physical thing rather than just kind of digital um, forms of learning all the time. It's good to go out and find some books, um, because you do get a lot of stuff that may not be on the internet as well, and goes into kind of, sometimes it can go into even better detail, and kind of all be there. You don't have to process it um, with books. It's all processed all together. There, someone has sifted through everything they know, or everything they have found, and kind of put all that knowledge in a book and nice categorized and everything like that. So it's great to have those books there still to go find it. Yeah, when your art is strong in communication, it can capture people's attention, and that's what you want to do as an artist, illustrator, video content creator. You want to capture people's attention. And there's many ways to do this, including using symbols, telling stories, sharing knowledge and things, um, interests like fan art, things like that. And yeah, just using strong communication. Communication in your art is definitely a very important thing. It's great to have good technical skills, um, but without kind of something to guide those technical skills, there's kind of a loss there in a way. Because you're not kind of doing much with it per se. You've got all this kind of technical skill, and people are gonna look at your art and be like, oh wow, that's awesome. But yeah, it'll just be that, oh wow, it's awesome. And that's mainly what you get with doing that kind of thing. And if you're not kind of sharing something with it, then it's not, it won't get as much as attention as you'd like per se. That's the way I feel. Feel free to let me know how you feel about it. If you feel like it may be different to you. It's great to have technical skills. Good for hiring and things like that. But yeah, if you don't kind of have communication, it's very hard. Now, in saying that, also usually with technical skills, usually that communication slowly starts to come out as you're building up those technical skills. That's if you do it right, um, you know communicating with your art can be second nature sometimes, and for some people it can be difficult as well to communicate with your art. Now, for me, I think I did went through a little bit of a struggle, I guess, at the start, but the thing with that though is I was learning technical. You kind of um, need a technical basis to build up those kind of communication skills. I didn't have very strong communication skills growing up though. For me, everything was down low. I think even when I was talking, I didn't really kind of start fully making full sentences and spelling and everything like that until a later age than everyone else. I think it's like 4 and 5 before I kind of made kind of full sentences and fully started talking and everything like that until I was like 5ish. So yeah, my communication skills, my English and everything like that, spelling and those kind of skills was very very low towards the beginning of things. Um, but eventually things turned around. I started getting things right and started to move those communication skills. I feel you need to know that they're there. Those communication skills. In your art and your illustration, you need to know that it's there to be used. Because if you just kind of get technical drawing, say your favorite singer or favorite artist, fan art of something, you just kind of do that. And there's a lot of people that do that quite well. But even then, they do usually have some form of communication there too. Um, let's say a good example of this. I think a good example I can think of would be like Teal Shin. I think look him up, Teal Shin. Because he does a lot of kind of fan art and things that in kind of his style. They're not exactly word for word, but they do share something new. His ideas, um, a story, a new kind of story he's trying to tell or something. Um, for instance, like I think he had one of Toothless in a. I think it was him, Teoshin, with Toothless in a onesie, and in a onesie, and Stitch in a Toothless onesie, kind of a thing. So it's a new idea he's communicating. It's something different. It's not the same. It's not just showing off like his technical skills and everything like that. It's communicating. It's telling a new story. It may not it's fan art, but it does kind of give a little bit more, tell his interpretation of things, his story, give a little bit of himself in there. Um, where just doing fan art, that's just kind of a word for word copy of something, just, gives off that, I like Final Fantasy or Bebop Cowboys or whatever it is fan art of. It's just that, and it's just showing that same word for word, and it doesn't communicate anything. The only thing it kind of communicates is that one, you have technical skills possibly, and well, yeah, possibly a say is because you're copying word for word. They can't, with a fan art like that, that's kind of a copy of it. It only shows that you can paint what they've painted. So it doesn't really show your technical skills. It didn't show what you're capable of. And I think that's the thing about copying other artists too. Where if you've got like your portfolio filled up with work that you've copied from other artists, and things like that, it doesn't show what you're capable of, what you can communicate with your art. I think that um, becoming very, very popular and very, very important, especially these days where communication these days is well up there. Back in the cave painting days, I don't know how well they communicated. Um, if they communicated well, or if they were like us communicating, or if they used like a very dialed back, you know, a dialed back kind of scenario. Maybe they had a certain name for males, a certain name for females, or something, and that was it. Um, I don't know all the technical terms, whether they were well advanced or anything like that, but it'd be interesting how they communicate to see what their art's like. But yeah, with this day and age, we communicate quite well. We communicate on many platforms. YouTube, TV, other video medias, uh, you know, video calling and Skype. Phone, tablet. We can, excuse me, illustration, art. There's so many ways we communicate these days, and that's why it's so strong these days. Communication with your art, because we're such high in communication these days. Um, you know, Probably you would have got away with being quite technically skilled, um, and just technically skilled with your art, probably maybe 20-30 years ago, maybe a little bit further. You would have got, yeah, pretty far with technical skills, and you can still get somewhere with just kind of good technical skills in art. But these days communicating with your art is way more valuable and way more important. And yeah, communicating the right way, it's great to tell stories and touch people, um, let people know your emotions, or uh, just try and tell an interesting story, make people cry, make people laugh, all that is great. With media and social media these days, if you can, make someone laugh with your illustration, or make someone feel very happy inside looking at your painting, um, it will go far. People will share it around and um, look, show their friends and be like, look at this piece of art, it's very funny, or it looks, makes me feel great. What do you think of it? And there's a lot of that these days, a lot of sharing memes and things, those kind of things. Same with videos, if the videos make you feel a certain way, if they make you laugh, um, and people share it and they share emotions, that's great too. If your illustration, art, or video makes you feel the same emotion as someone else in the room, or someone else that's viewing it, seeing it, they laugh at it, so you laugh together, um, or they feel a certain way, so they share the image and they both feel a certain way together. Like a nostalgia piece where you're looking back. Say, I seen a popular thing is that looking at kids from the 80s will remember, kind of a thing, if there's an art piece with kids from the 90s will remember, and it's a thing. All those people that were born around that year, growing up around that era, will remember it and share it and be like, oh, it's the same thing, communicating there, and sharing emotions. And it's great to have that too, is where you're sharing this feeling with your viewers, and they can share the same feeling as you. And it's great to have on this YouTube channel, especially because if people tune in and they've got the same kind of ambitions that I have with wanting to become an illustrator and those kind of things, and enjoying like talking with artists and listening to those kinds of things, then they can connect with my channel, connect with these videos, which is great to see. And yeah, and for me, delving into children's books at the moment, it's been very important for me to kind of communicate, and tell this story. I really want to make sure that you understand that, um, you know, that this hedgehog is yawning, that this mat is, what kind of texture it's made out of. It's kind of a um, cotton fabric, um, hard cotton fabric. It's kind of what I remember when I was kind of in my uncle's place. He had a mat like this. That's what kind of reminds me of. That's what I kind of painted. You kind of know what blanket it is. It's got that kind of silver outside to it. I've had blankets like that. I'm pretty sure I had like a blue cotton blanket like what he is wearing, and that's where I kind of got this idea from, of this blanket. The color and the kind of texture pattern per se. The pattern's a little bit off as I remember, but I wanted to change it up a little bit from what I remember, and that's the kind of thing I was using in communicating my art here. as well as the wooden floorboards. I want to make sure that the texture makes sure that it looks like wooden floors. It doesn't look like his ceiling, the mud in his ceiling. Now, with this painting, my YouTube video here, I'm just kind of painting over it. There is no reference, there is no second screen with that little bit um, to show you the whole view, so sometimes you might not see the whole picture of me painting. You just like close-ups of me like editing certain spots and things. So sometimes when I'm talking about the piece, you might not see the whole picture, but yeah, you start to see the whole picture. And yeah, just those little details and little things can add to things. If per se going back to the cave paintings, if they were just stickmen, just standing there, it wouldn't say or show anything. But if they had spears in their hand, if there was cows in front of them, or cattle, or some sort of tigers or something, then you would interpret it and it would tell more of a story. Little details, and there's certain things, features and things that may add to it, per se, like how big was the lion compared to the human in the painting, or how tall was the human in this drawing or cave painting. These slight details can tell a bigger story. If the tiger was bigger than the humans, it would feel like it's a big ferocious beast. If it was tiny and small, like they were like little mice looking tigers or something, it would would show that these were little tiny pests around that they killed. Little features that can really impact a big picture, the bigger picture. Some obviously are more important than the others. There's like, back in cave paintings again. They didn't show like feet or hands or I think some of them might have, but they didn't show much of that detail. Yeah, it wasn't really that important, so they didn't really show it. I don't know if they knew how to. They might have known how to, but definitely that, and that happens happens all around. It's happened through history. It still happens these days. There's details you don't work on because they're not too important. For instance, like painting it till it's perfect. Painting a piece till it's perfect. As long as it's communicating well, people look at it and they be like wood, straight away, or blanket, or hedgehog, or table that's made out of wood straight away. Then it doesn't matter too much about fully touching it up and making sure that it looks like the most perfect wood out there. But you can go to that extent if you like, but going to that extent, once you reach a certain point of telling the story, of making sure that detail looks good, it doesn't really matter from there. From there, you just showing technical skills from there, so you can add that to it if you really want to show off your technical skills, as well as telling your story and everything like that. I mean, it's done well in history, like Mona Lisa paintings, and a lot of those very realistic paintings that we see that do them both. They are really strong in communication, and they are really technically well painted, and they can be well remembered as well. So it is important as well to have technical skill in there. But if you can communicate well, you should be hitting some notes. And well, as in, you know, you need at least some technical skill there to communicate well, especially this day and age. You know, some form of level um, to communicate well. Make sure that your audience knows what you're talking about, and how you're speaking, and you're speaking in the right language. And you know, these days, heading into the whole kind of um, racism thing that's happening at the moment. Myself over in the States, as far as I know, I don't keep up with all this stuff. Um, but yeah, you make sure that you communicate right as well. You know, I've heard someone, I've heard that I think Sikme Chan, who's a kind of really famous artist. She does a lot of kind of sexualized fan art in a way. That's why I see it. Um, you know, she liked a status or something, something to do with Black Lives Matter, whole thing, and now she's like hated on for some reason because she has liked a tweet. You know, it's got into that level at the moment. So, um, keep communicate in the right way becomes more important with that these days. So yeah, hopefully, you know, you feel free to communicate in the right way with your art and keep moving forward and trying to communicate with your art, trying to tell a story, trying to create a new creature, create a new design, new outlook with your videos. You know, tell a story in a different way. You know, with videos, um, YouTube, usually, you know, most everything's kind of been covered already. Um, so telling a story or showing in your way can be helpful because a lot of people can understand different people. Um, you know, one YouTuber might say something and it makes no sense, but you listen to another YouTuber and it makes complete sense the way he says it. So sometimes you can offer that in your illustration, your art, your videos. You know, someone can say something in that way for you, and hopefully my channel can do that for you. So feel free, you know, to like, share, and subscribe. Feel free to communicate down below. Um, if you like, if you have anything to say about this topic, if you felt this was helpful or anything like that. Yeah, we'll see you. Keep drawing, everyone, and we'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.